What is art? Some may say that art is simply an aesthetically pleasing picture on a canvas, or perhaps a sculpture painfully chiseled over decades to be frozen in time at a museum. But what part of that canvas, or of that marble, makes it art? The best way I've heard it explained is that what makes art art is its ability to invoke emotion out of the person who is interpreting it. And Gris is a game that fits that description perfectly. Gris is not only among the most beautiful games I have ever played, but is a playable piece of art. So let's talk about it. Gris's story follows a girl named Gris, who after losing all of the color in her life, sets off on a journey to gain it back. But what caused Gris to fall into her newfound setting is unknown to the player at the start of their playthrough, but from the cutscene at the start it is clear that something tragic enough to make Gris spiral had happened. The player first starts in an area that is black and white, one that is devoid of color and barren. Through discovering a secret statue, it is revealed that this stage of the game is meant to symbolize denial. Gris doesn't tell its story with dialogue. It tells it through beautifully crafted water-painted settings meant to personify the 5 different stages of grief. And this first stage is the beginning of Gris's journey through it. You start with bringing back the color red and working through a desert of howling winds and broken windmills. This area is supposed to represent anger, the frustration of Gris's loss, the boiling feeling in her chest. This game expects the player to put things together. There are no guide arrows pointing to the next objective, only areas you can and can't explore yet. It might even take a while for somebody playing this game to figure out what their objective is, but in due time it's made clear that our goal is to restore the color to Gris's life, meaning we need to follow her on her journey to acceptance. After bringing back the color red, you then bring back the color green. But unlike the thrashing landscape of the desert, this area is almost peaceful, although her story is far from over. The background is now a mix of both red and green, creating a scenic forest full of bumps and trees that fold and unfold before you. This area expresses Gris's journey of bargaining, and also is where she is confronted by the darkness for the first time. In this instance, it takes the form of a bird, which screeches at Gris, attempting to knock her off her feet and set her back while she tries to manage through her pain. However, Gris works through it, fighting off the darkness for now, and bringing back the color blue. This is now the point of the game where she finds herself in arguably the most scary, painful, and exhausting stage of the 5 stages of grief: depression. Her world is now flooded with water, likely meant to exemplify her tears. This chapter is dark and crammed throughout the narrow tunnels you need to work through, with your only guidance being the light Gris clings to. You eventually learn to swim and navigate through this new portion of the game until once again you are lifted up and given a new color. This time it's yellow, but without giving you a chance to appreciate the newfound scenery, right as you are almost home free, the darkness comes once again in the form of an eel trying to swallow you whole. You search through even tighter passageways, following the little light you can, until you are eventually caught by the eel and backed into a corner, but are saved at the last minute. This allows you to continue into the finale of the game. This area is a beautiful mix of all of the colors you have gained through Gris's journey, and not only is her progress through tragedy shown in this setting, but also in the regaining of Gris's voice, which is an extremely profound moment that calls you back to the start of her journey when she lost it. The ruins of this region are almost mystical, and honestly, pretty peaceful. After a long, strenuous journey, Gris is now met with an area that is almost comforting. Until, of course, the darkness makes one last effort to take her down, now mimicking Gris's own appearance. What ensues is a wonderful cutscene of Gris on the verge of giving into her suffering, but once again being saved by the statue from the beginning she reconstructed. Each chapter fills with color, and after a ginger kiss to the statue, Gris marches on toward the light. who was the person that Gris was grieving? What event set the game's story into motion? Well, from a secret cutscene only available to enjoy after collecting every memento in the game, we can see Gris sitting under the stars with her mother. In addition, her mother mimics the position of the statue that broke at the start of the game. From this, my interpretation is that this story is one of loss, and that loss being Gris's mother, which in my opinion makes this game's story 10 times more touching. Gris's visuals, if I haven't made it clear already, are stunning. I found myself at multiple points of my playthrough stopping just to enjoy what I was looking at. Looking back at my playthrough, something that I kept on saying was, like, every single frame of this game could be a wallpaper. And honestly, I think that's a really good way to put it. It felt like almost every frame of this game could have been found in an old expensive camera deep in your closet that only contained the best photography. I loved the minimalistic design of the different environments paired with the soft watercolored graphics, and I think Nómada Studio really outdid themselves. When thinking of this technique, Gris is the game that comes to mind, and that's not by chance. I also really enjoyed playing through Gris's numerous different puzzles and learning how to utilize the different abilities you unlocked. Now I realize this isn't necessarily exclusive to Gris, that's kind of just how game progression goes, but Gris was my first fully focused 2D puzzle platformer, so being introduced to this new game genre by Gris was honestly a pleasure. This game was full of symbolism, and going back to the abilities that you unlock within each area, I believe they also have symbolism, such as the heavy ability from the desert, likely representing the strength Gris needed to gain in order to work through her anger and keep herself planted on her path to overcoming her mother's death. I found these abilities really fun to use, although occasionally I would get stuck, but I think that's just because I can be dumb sometimes. With that being said, I was actually pretty surprised to find out that Gris's main point of criticism was its gameplay. A lot of players' main grievance with Gris was that it was just boring, or not fun to play in general, but I guess I have a different outlook on it. All in all, I enjoyed playing through this game. Enough at least to do what I normally do with games I enjoy and 100% it. But with that being said, it's important to say that Gris definitely isn't a game to buy if you're looking for a lot of action or something closer to other platformers like Dead Cells. The game is a slow burn from start to finish. It isn't very challenging, and in the broad scheme of things, the puzzles may seem bland to some people more versed in the genre than me. This game is also very story-based and puts a lot of its cards into its beauty. Some people may feel that this game is almost too simple and therefore not worthy of playing, but I think that's where this game gets its charm. I don't think what I've listed before makes Gris a bad game, but maybe a game that isn't what some people are looking for. And I feel like it's important to understand the purpose behind this game's creation. I don't think the developers of Gris were necessarily aiming for a riveting, complex platformer with puzzles never seen before. I feel like they were aiming for a short, powerful experience with an even more powerful message. And that's exactly what they did. Of course, my experience wasn't perfect. It was honestly a little frustrating to work past some of the weird glitches, like having to turn my frames down to 60 just to get past the bird part on chapter 3, or seeing the little forest creature spaz out while I'm trying to feed him apples. And if somebody were to tell me that these glitches may have lessened their liking for Gris, I think that's perfectly understandable. But personally, I looked past that and I tried to understand what Gris wanted me, the player, to take away from it all. This game is meant for somebody who is looking for something different, or for anybody who has been touched by grief. And that's the reason why I consider this game to be an interactive piece of art. The connection between color and emotion in this game is not only brilliant and seen in places other than Gris and video games in general, but also is something that personally resonated with me. All my life, I've struggled with sadness. And that struggle isn't exclusive to me. When I was a kid, I remember talking to a counselor, and I vividly remember explaining to her that now that I was feeling a lot happier, life was more colorful. While I was struggling, it felt like my eyes had been covered by a gray filter, almost distorting the world around me into a physical representation of my mental health. And I remember wishing on the car at home that I had an appreciation for the beauty around me sooner. This kind of example of gray, of melancholy, of apathy, was one I continue to use and sometimes find myself thinking back to when I have a heavy heart. So this concept of gray that is not only exemplified in the game itself, but also in the title of the game being the French word for gray, is really cool to me. All in all, I'm finally glad I got around to playing this game after months of it being backlogged like the dozens of other games I'm wanting to play. And I would recommend, if you have the money, or if it's on sale, or if this video has piqued your interest, you check it out as well. But with that, I think I've shared all of the thoughts that have been running through my head since I completed Gris. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching and listening to me nerd out. I really do appreciate the support and I hope that you enjoyed watching. Please take care of yourself and love one another to the fullest extent. I've been Ozone, and this has been Gris.